foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers, or I should say happy fall, y'all, as everybody's signs apparently say at this time of the year. Anyway, it is fall here in Orlando. Technically, that started August 9th with Not So Scary, but it's officially fall. It's pumpkin spice season. All the events are kicked off down here, and it is okay to turn on all your Halloween lights or decorations. I know I already did. I wait till after Labor Day. Don't want too much judgment from the neighbors. The house was decorated, though, mid-August inside. And the candles, all of them are out, especially those Stranger Things ones from Bath & Body. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole. This is our September recap. So for this one, since this is the second one I'm actually doing, I decided to, during the month, start jotting down notes about things that are happening or getting announced at theme parks, but not only those in Orlando. It looks like a lot of the other theme parks around the country start announcing things, getting ready for the next season. So a lot of the theme parks around the country, they do close seasonally, or they'll do like a Halloween event and then a holiday event, and then be closed and not reopen until the spring. So they could do a full-time rehab on the parks during the slow season, and then also get to building too. So I have a few interesting new additions coming to some theme parks around the country as well. So I figured we'd dive right in, jump around, talk about things that happened in September in the theme park world, and then things that we could look forward to next month, as we still have another month of the fall holidays. And then, of course, November 1st rolls around, and it's the holiday season. So it's a busy time for the theme parks, which is exciting. And then, of course, we go over to January and start the marathon, and then a brand new year. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right now, Halloween Horror Nights has been going on over at Universal Orlando, and then also kicked off this month in September over at Universal Hollywood. And really great event. So I got to go this year. Going to be doing a recap coming up soon of my top favorite houses. I never like to do that immediately of it because it changes. I can tell you I went opening weekend, which was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was packed. This is the earliest they have ever opened the event. They've never opened Halloween Horror Nights in August, so having the opening weekend for Orlando in August was very different. It always rains on opening night, and it didn't, which was really nice. However, basically every night since I've been has rained. And it doesn't just rain, it pours and then gets steamy and hot. So it doesn't really feel like Halloween when you're sweating out there, but I could say the houses are fantastic this year. The streets are all right. The event overall is it's a good year. It's not the best year they've ever done, but it's good. They've added some new locations to get ready for different things. If you remember, I talked about the Mega Movie Parade, which has started over at Universal Orlando. And because of the Mega Movie Parade, they lost their parade building. And that's where they housed, if you went in previous years, Beetlejuice. Also, The Last of Us was in the other parade building. So they have like the two big warehouses in the back, which now actually house all the floats for the daytime parade. So they had to build two tents. So the tents are quite far. They're next to each other, and you will get your steps in. And if you go during sunlight hours, there is no shade. If you go during rain, the drainage isn't great. So I have sweat back there, stepped in a lot of puddles back there. However, spoiler alert, has two of the best houses back there, so it's worth the walk. Over Not So Scary has continued this month as well. A lot of dates being sold out. However, again, a lot of dates rainy as well. So hearing a lot of issues with that too, because unfortunately, if it rains at Not So Scary, unlike Halloween Horror Nights, everything is basically outside. So you go to Not So Scary for the Boo to You parade, you go for the fireworks show, you go for the whatever they call the Hocus Pocus show on the stage. Unfortunately, a lot of that can't happen with the rain. So I definitely feel bad for guest relations at the end of the night. And of course, the guests that have to go and might be their only time to go. This month, SeaWorld did start their Hollow Scream event. I believe this is year 4 for Orlando. I wanted to go through some of the houses too, because they have some new ones this year. So they have a Farm 51. So a lot of times they'll keep the same houses from previous years, unlike Halloween Horror Nights, which every year changes up. Sometimes they'll share them with the West Coast, as they did this year, which I will get into on that podcast. However, SeaWorld a lot of times will kind of repeat some of the same ones and make new ones. Or I've gone the first few years, I kind of stopped going because Halloween Horror Nights is my dream. But, you just feel like you're cheating on Halloween Horror Nights with SeaWorld. It just doesn't feel right. But SeaWorld will a lot of times change them up a little bit. They did one that was a hotel, and the next year was a cruise ship. And it was essentially the exact same thing, except they added some portholes. So, fool me once. But they consider this to be a new haunted house called Farm 51 this year, where you stumble into an abandoned farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in Orlando. The air is thick with dread, and the silence is broken only by the eerie rustling of cornfields. Suddenly, you realize you're not alone. The chilling whispers of extraterrestrial visitors echo in the darkness. They've crash-landed, and they are not friendly. Interesting one. I'm curious to start seeing some walkthroughs of that one. I will tell you, if you've been to Halloween Horror Nights and then you go over to SeaWorld, you will notice not only a quality difference, but they talk the actors. So it makes it a little creepier because it is much quieter. If you go into Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, it's very loud for the most part. There's either music or there's different triggers the actors have that make things go off. This one is more of, if you remember, like a small town kind of one or like your high school, and they talk to you. Some people find that creepier. I personally find it awkward to have an actor in my face being like, you, come here, I'm going to eat you. And it's like, this is weird. But it does make it a little more creepy because it is quieter and a little more uncomfortable. So there's a returning one from last year, I guess it is, Beryllium 666. Sure. There's a new one, Ultimate Gamble. So looks like it's more of a themed one for House Always Wins, which is interesting because they did that at Halloween Horror Nights 21. Water's Edge Wellness Center. So this looks like, I remember this one being actually the one that was the cruise ship / hotel. So it looks like they now change it to a wellness center. And then Atlantis Journey Below. That should be interesting. At least that works with the theming. They do have the same shows as they've had every single year. So they've always, since opening year, they've had Monster Stomp, which is a little bit of a weird one because you think Monster Stomp, you think it's going to be full of monsters. But apparently this was the name that Universe at Busch Gardens did every single year, Monster Stop, and then would have a different tagline. So this one has Monster Stop with the same tagline every year. So this is all with Jack the Ripper. It's okay. I prefer like a Bill and Ted style show. I want some comedy in there, but seems like that has gone away. And then there's the Siren Song show as well. And then they have the Scare Zones. So Seeds of the Coven, Paradise Palms, Cannibal Harbor. Oh, I could scroll. There's more. Blood Light District. They did that one before, which was basically like a red light district with vampires. Toxic Turmoil. Terrors of the Deep. Carnival Pier. And then what they do the best actually there is their interactive bars. So I think when you go to SeaWorld, you're not really there for the big budget houses or the big budget anything else. You are there because of the bars, and the bars are more the fun theme. So they have a new one this year called Space Gate 3. And this is, okay. So about extraterrestrials. They're really leaning into extraterrestrials this year. Sacrificing Spirits, Tormented, Carnival. But the one that I really want to talk about is the only reason that I actually go to Howl-O-Scream in the past and would go back is the Longshore Tavern. So the Longshoreman Tavern is an interactive bar where basically there's a bunch of actors that act like they're the longshoremen, and they will do songs, they will pick on people in the audience, they will just interact with you. It is a lot of fun. We went the first year and then the second year, and they always change it up with different games. Think about Citizens of Hollywood over at Hollywood Studios back in the day. It reminds me of that, but very adult. And they'll say, what's your name? Tell us something about yourself, and then make a whole song about you on the spot. So very Whose Line Is It Anyway? If there's no kids there, they'll make it a little more adult. If there are kids there, they'll tone it down a little bit. So if you see a kid, tell them to leave. So it's more fun. But yeah, it's a really fun interactive thing, something unique that they've done. I'm glad that they bring this back every year because to me, it's worth the price of admission. Anyway, let's move on from SeaWorld. Let's talk about some of the D23 aftermath. So as we know, the last month I talked about D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, where they talked a lot about some of the things coming out and some of the new things. Since the event, we started to get more information that they didn't share. Basically, that's been what's closing. And we talked more about that. And unfortunately, as I mentioned on the last month, was the Rivers of America closing at Walt Disney World to make way for the Cars Land and then build pathways that will lead us eventually back to Villains Land. A lot of talk online, a lot of petitions, a lot of angry and upset guests, which I totally get. I'm with them as well. I actually went last weekend to Magic Kingdom and rode the boat and was quite sad. Unfortunately, of course, there isn't a large crowd for the boat. So it is one of those things when you ride the boat, you realize, wow, there is a lot of property back here. So you see both sides, but I think it is a loss, especially in a park that has so much space. We didn't find out anything yet about Monsters Inc. Land. We don't know if anything is being demolished yet, so stay tuned for that one. But we did find out over at California Adventure, the red trolley is going to be closing. I guess the barn, they said online, is where the new Avengers ride is. So backstage area for that, unfortunately, will be gone. So the red trolley doesn't really have a large ride path if you've ever been there. More of a cool atmosphere where it goes up and down and takes you through the Hollywood land. However, the red trolley is going to be closing. Something they didn't announce over at D23, which is very interesting, but they decided to announce it now, is the Lightning McQueen show over at Hollywood Studios, which is in the back theater, which is kind of like you have to go through the rock and roller coaster area to get to it. So very strange location to begin with, but it's going to be a new villain show. And I remember when that location was built, it was more built as a special event space, and they did a special event there called Club Villain, and it was an extra ticketed event, and you can go in there, and they had projection mapping, and Dr. Facilier hosted, and they had different food and different characters, and I remember they had a face character for the Queen of Hearts. It was really neat. It didn't last long, and then they made this Lightning McQueen show, which I'm not really interested in seeing a car talk to you on stage with screens. But you know what? They need more stuff at Hollywood Studios. So I'm excited that they're putting in a villain show. I am curious if this is more of a test for the new land or I don't know. It's just interesting that they're changing it out and they didn't announce it during D23. But this will be a nice little change for Hollywood Studios to be getting a new show in there because it is, after all, the show park. Now over at Epcot, the Food and Wine party, whatever, festival, has been going on, as well as the concert series. I was going to go through some of the October concerts coming up. So October 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, Latin Ambition. 4th and 5th, Aloe Black. 6th and 7th, Joey Fatone and Friends. I know that's always a big popular one since you don't know who he's going to bring. Last year was Lance Bass, fun fact. October 8th, 9th, 10th, Funkified. 11th, 12th, We the Kings. 13th, 14th, Switchfoot. 15th, 16th, 17th, Gilly and the Girl Band. Okay. 18th and 19th, David Archuleta. 20th and 21st, Billy Ocean. 23rd, 24th, Hayfire. 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th, Hanson. Always a super popular one as well. And I know they sell their beer hops. I kid you not. And then the 29th, 30th, and 31st. Wow. Hello, watermelon. There we go. Evolution Motown. And this goes, of course, until November. So it'll be through early November or mid-November. Also, the new Blue Ribbon Corn Dog stand over at the Boardwalk did open this month. I've been looking online. It looks pretty good. It looks like, if you remember the Disneyland ones where they are the hand-dipped corn dogs. It is funny because I remember this has taken months to build, and the bakery that replaced ESPN Zone still isn't open. So, you know what? Let's take the win when we can get it. We have a corn dog stand. Woo! Maybe one day we'll have a cupcake place. We're slow moving down here. Yeah. Over at, got some announcements too coming up. So over at SeaWorld, they did just announce the Arctic Flying Theater that will be opening next year. Now, this sounds like, from what rumors say, more of the Wild Arctic. If you remember, it's kind of a Star Tours kind of ride. And then during the holidays, they would turn it into the Polar Express. Very similar thing as that will be opening next year. SeaWorld has been having a lot of coasters back to back to back, so it is nice that they will be going back to a traditional, smaller, family-friendly ride to be doing, even though they've been family-friendly coasters. But that'll be coming to SeaWorld in 2025. Also, don't forget, 2025 will be Epic Universe. So it is going to be an interesting year here in Orlando next summer since you can't really compete with a giant new multi-billion-dollar theme park coming. So SeaWorld just doing a flying theater. Disney, it doesn't sound like we have anything coming to Disney right now. We'll find out. It seems like they kind of are like, hey, you have your summer, go nuts. Hopefully when people come to Epic, they also come to Disney for a few days, and then Disney will kind of catch up later. It seems to be the plan, at least. They are giving you a free day at the water park when you check in at anything, which, cool. I will say I went to Typhoon Lagoon last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was quite empty. And then a few days later, I went to Volcano Bay, my personal favorite, and it was quite busy. So it does seem that maybe giving out those free tickets will hopefully get people to be like, oh yeah, they have water parks. Speaking of the water parks, they announced this month that Blizzard Beach will be reopening when Typhoon Lagoon closes on November 4th, so they'll be switching over the parks. This used to be a winter thing back in the day, not to date myself, but for the summers, they would always have both water parks open. However, since not only demand is down, but also it sounds like trying to get lifeguards as well is a tough one. So they do one at a time, which is fine because at this point, if demand is down, why have two water parks open anyway? So Blizzard Beach, yeah, November 4th. I'm hoping to go check that out. I can't tell you the last time I was at Blizzard Beach. I do remember there's a lot of stairs, though. So good workout park. Over at Disneyland out in California, the Oogie Boogie Bash has kicked off. And that is their Halloween party. They did switch it over a few years ago, I want to say 2019, over to Disney's California Adventure from their Disneyland park. And they do little different things every year, and they add new character meet and greets, which always is a huge popularity thing out there. In the past, they have added Andy from Toy Story, and he looks like a kid with braces and a shaved head and talks to you and is creepy. They also have added Madame Mim from Sword in the Stone, Ernesto de la Cruz from Coco, and Ernesto will sing and then he'll talk, and you always have to look really close. It's this really cool prosthetic they have on his face. I don't know how they do it. It's very cool. So they always add some really neat ones. They also added last year the from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Judge Doom, which not only was creepy, but then he would like kill a tune in like this. It was creepy. This year they added Dr. Doofenshmirtz as a live action character, and there has been a lot of talk online about it because it's really weird. Dr. Doofenshmirtz, if you know from Phineas and Ferb, already is a weird looking character, but they all are on that show because they all have weird shaped heads. But they're cartoons, and that's okay. So to make this a live action, I'm very curious what the meetings were like and what everybody talked about and said, yeah, let's do this. So definitely look them up online. Definitely an interesting kind of character. The other ones have all worked. This one, I don't know how much it really translates, but it's still cool that they add somebody new every year and change it up. They also have that Villain's Trail out there that you could walk through. They have a different parade. I've always wanted to go out there for the Oogie Boogie Bash, so maybe one day. They have Oogie Boogie too, obviously, so it's neat. They also don't do their character meet and greets the same way that we do them here in Florida. They do more of like a drive-by style where you wait in the queue, they're up there talking, you could stand to the side and take a picture of them, but it's not like a general character meet and greet, which is really nice because at least then you all get to see them. I know they have Agatha, from the new series on Disney Plus, which comes out this month, Agatha All Along, or WandaVision. So she meets out there too. So they have some really unique characters that I've never seen anywhere else. Now let's talk about some other parks around the country and some announcements that have come out this month. This is something I want to keep trying and keep announcing and keep talking about because these are things that I love too. So over at one of my favorite theme parks, which gave me the idea, I'm like, I need to do favorite theme parks, in the country or in the world. This will definitely make the top 10. Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, always voted one of the most beautiful parks in the world, beautiful parks in North America, blah, blah, blah. It's a beautiful park. So Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, to me is the superior of the two that are left. Right now there's Busch Gardens, Tampa, of course, and then there's Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And Williamsburg is more of supposed to be the European theme, and you go to the different countries in Europe. And it's a very lush park. They have a whole train that goes over this bridge, over a lake. It's one of those parks that you look around and you're like, how is this a theme park? However, it is also a very hilly park. So it's one of those parks, too, where you're like, I'm going to not only get my steps in, but I'm going to be exhausted. But one of the parks, one of the rides that were built on one of the hills was the Big Bad Wolf back in the day. And I remember going on this ride as a kid, and it was a suspended one, and it was one of those swaying ones. I don't know why I'm doing my hand to show a swaying motion. This is a podcast. But it would sway, and you'd go through this German village, and the Big Bad Wolf was supposed to be chasing you, and you'd get close to all these houses in the village and kind of sway through them. And the ending part would go down this hill to the lake and sway over the hill. And it was this really cool effect. And I remember going back a few years ago, and I was mortified that the ride was taken down to build a new coaster. Apparently, the company that built the coaster went out of business, and they had a lot of issues finding the parts for it, and then the maintenance was very high. So unfortunately, the park couldn't keep up with it, which I totally get. It wasn't due to a lack of demand. It was actually extremely popular. They built a new coaster in its place called Verbolten, which the whole theme is that you're going through the Black Forest on a car. And I rode this before Hagrid's was even open. And you go into a show building, and the track drops and launches you to another track. Spoiler alert, very much like Hagrid. However, it kept the same ending part where it goes down and over like the water and everything, which was neat and a nice tribute to the Big Bad Wolf. So there's a lot of fandom around the Big Bad Wolf. So they have announced that replacing, they have a pad in the back that used to be part of Dragonfire. And if you don't know the story with Dragonfire, it was this coaster that they built that was just rough. And it was just, they had to replace parts of the track because like it was a rough coaster. I remember going back on the day, and it shook you up. So it didn't last long. They turned it into more of a picnic area for corporate events, but they're going to be building a new coaster, which is kind of a tribute to the Big Bad Wolf. It's not going to be called the Big Bad Wolf. They are doing voting online right now to determine the name, but it's basically supposed to be the return of the Big Bad Wolf, a suspended coaster, going to be themed after a wolf. So it's very exciting, and I love that they're doing that. Basically for the fans at this point, be like, all right, we can't bring back the original ride, but let's bring back a new version of the Big Bad Wolf. So I'm excited myself. Over at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, the coaster capital of the world, as they call it. Great park. It's out on a peninsula, and they have tons of unique rides, and it sounds like next year they're opening up a new one, which is unique. So it's going to be called Siren's Curse, and the train, as it says online, travels to a track. The track disconnects and then will tilt 90 degrees. So very curious how this is going to work, how this is going to look. But this will be opening next year as well. And they also announced that Top Thrill 2, which if you don't know the history, Top Thrill Dragster, very cool coaster, launch coaster, kind of like a King Dakar, had a lot of issues. They replaced a lot of stuff this year, added some new track and a new element. However, this summer really didn't open. I think it opened for like a few days and then basically closed. So next summer, hopefully Top Thrill Dragster 2 or Top Thrill 2 will be open, as well as this new Siren's Curse coaster for Cedar Point in Ohio. So hopefully as this fall and winter start, we have some new announcements from some of our other favorites around the country, and always get to look forward to some more announcements, and we'll be sharing them on this podcast. But enjoy the rest of the fall. Happy October. And I will see you at the parks.
Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it! I knew you would. Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese. See you later.
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.